Paul Godfrey, today's guest, is the 2022 Outstanding Faculty Member at BYU's Business School and author of the new book, Clean: Lessons from Ecolab's Century of Positive Impact, which shows leaders the pathway to a more sustainable world. He'll share insights about his work and his superpower. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe. Welcome to the Superpowers for Good show, where we empower you. Paul, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. It's just a thrill to catch up again.
Yeah, Devin, it's wonderful to see you again. You're looking happy and healthy.
Well, thank you, Paul. I was so excited when you reached out to tell me about your new book. Congratulations on publishing Clean: Lessons from Ecolab's Century of Positive Impact. I'm excited to learn more. I can't wait to read it. I apologize that I haven't had a chance to do that, but I will endeavor to get that done before I write this episode up. But it's a thrill to see that you tackle this. Tell us about Clean.
Well, the first thing I'll tell you is if you haven't read it yet, that's good. It only came out on Tuesday, and I think Amazon just started shipping probably Tuesday night. So you're probably okay there. So I was doing some work for a international company that did industrial water back in 2017. And they wanted to know about this company, Nalco Water, which was the industry leader. So I did a bunch of research, and everything I read about this company was just hard to believe, because their customers sang their praises. They helped them manage water, save money, reduce their environmental footprint, a whole bunch of things. And so I said, is this real? So I called up. Now, Nalco got bought by Ecolab in 2011. So I called up, get this, the Ecolab main number, the receptionist in 2017. They still had one. And I said, could I talk to somebody who knows about sustainability at Nalco Water? And the receptionist, very kind, sure, I'll connect you. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, right, I'm going to end up at voicemail, or I'm going to end up in some administrative assistant's office, and I'm just going to be lost. And about 15 seconds later, this guy, Emilio Tenuta, answers the phone, and Emilio is the vice president of sustainability at Ecolab. And he had come from Nalco, and we had a great conversation, found out that we had a lot in common, both personally, but also the way we viewed the world. And that led to a partnership where we wrote a couple of business cases, and then we decided to write this book to celebrate Ecolab's 100th birthday. So on March 9th, Ecolab turned 100 years old. And the fun thing about the book and the story is Ecolab was sustainable from day one. So their value proposition was about reducing environmental impact, making a social contribution from their business. And this is from their first product, long, 90 years before sustainability comes on the market as something companies ought to care about. They were doing it. So, this is a story, but it's a story not about Ecolab. Ecolab is sort of the skeleton, but the story is about the principles that they used to become a sustainable company. And those are the same principles that other organizations, companies, NGOs, churches, governments, by adopting these sets of principles, they can become environmentally, socially, and business sustainable.
So it's interesting that the book is in a way a celebration and almost a corporate memoir, but you've turned it into something of a how-to manual as well, haven't you?
Yeah. So each chapter starts with an Ecolab story. One of them, I got to travel to Vegas to write the book because you've been to Vegas, and it's all about heating and air conditioning and water conservation. And so Ecolab literally owns Las Vegas in the water treatment, air conditioning, and sanitation space. I think of the 19 major properties on the Strip, they have 13 or 14 of them buying some version of their products and services. So, there are stories about Ecolab, about the people, about what they do, but then it's about the principles. And you can see behind me this pyramid which are the 5 Ps or the 4 Ps that that Ecolab has used to become successful. And at the whole root of it, this is back to 1923, is a world perspective, a view, a Weltanschauung that sees fundamental respect between Ecolab as a business and its customers and employees and other stakeholders. A view of the world that's integrated. So seeing that cleaning material is more than just cleaning your desktop or your surface. It's about water, it's about labor. And so by being fully integrated, Ecolab offers a product at a price premium that saves its customers money. Then they're growth oriented. I mean, they went from 1 employee and a couple $1,000s in sales to a $14 billion corporation. They're extremely humble. They learn from their customers. They learn from their employees. When they make mistakes, they own up and they move on. And then they're all about technology, which is technical solutions. Innovation is going to help us become more sustainable. You combine those 5 things, you got the right perspective. And that's what the book's about, is about if you adopt this perspective, how does it help you set priorities? How does it help you invest to build processes and products? And how does it help you perform? So that's sort of moving up the ladder there. My screen is a little bit, it's not mirrored, so I'm moving a different way. But that's the story of the book. And the key thing is, whether you're a new startup or an existing company, you can change your perspective. You can adopt the right perspective and become and lay the seeds to become a sustainable company.
What is the key? We don't have time to go through the whole book, of course, but if you were to distill down to one key message, what is the step for becoming a more sustainable company?
Well, I think as any author will tell you, there's not one, but there's 2. One is respect. You have to fundamentally believe that everything you deal with is an entity worthy of respect. That means a customer, that means an employee, that means the truck you're driving, that means the world that you're living in. So if you don't fundamentally respect the dignity and innate worth of everything that you deal with, you're never going to really become sustainable. You're going to get close, but you're never really going to get there. And the other one is follows up right on from that, which is integration. You have to see your part in the whole. You have to see where you're just one thread in a tapestry, and the others that connect to you, but the others that you allow to connect. And so if you see the world as an integrated whole, then you see your actions in terms of environmental impact, in terms of what you're doing for society. So those would be the 2 things. If you really want to be sustainable, you got to start there.
Those are fantastic observations, and it's a thrill, Paul, to see you tackle all of these issues. Some of your work in the past has focused on eliminating poverty, right? Reducing poverty, and I wonder how you think about the connection between environmental sustainability and poverty.
So there's a story about Ecolab back in the early 1980s, late 1970s. Vietnam War had ended, and there were hundreds of thousands of refugees. We called them boat people. And it's a pejorative term, but because they all got on boats and they left Cambodia, they left Vietnam, and they went wherever they could land. Well, a bunch of these folks who spoke Hmong ended up in Minneapolis. So one of the things that Ecolab did was hired these folks, trained them to be technicians, to clean dishwashers, to install soap dispensers, to do these things. And they paid them to learn English. They paid them to integrate into the society and the fabric of Minneapolis, St. Paul. Well, it turns out today, Minneapolis has one of the most thriving Hmong communities in the United States. And I don't think that's an accident. I think that's because you see that there are people around you who are struggling, and you see that you can do something. And hey, this is not pure charity. They hired these folks to become valued employees and members of the team, but they also realized they needed to help them learn to speak English and integrate into US society. So I think that's one of the ways this right perspective can help you become environmentally and socially sustainable and help lift people out of poverty.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, Paul, you've accomplished a lot. You've had a stellar career as a professor at BYU and as an author. This is, I think, your fifth book. Is that right?
Yeah. It's number 5.
So just amazing career and kudos. What do you see as your superpower?
Just to the viewers, I knew this question was coming, and I'm not sure I have a superpower. But I think if I have a superpower, it's I love to learn. Throughout my career, I tell people who think about getting a PhD, what's the best thing about the career is you can change careers without changing jobs. So I have looked at over the course of my career how businesses earn long-term profits, why some are sustainable over time in terms of pure profitability. I've looked at poverty. I've looked at strategic risk. Now I'm looking at sustainability. These are all different careers, and I get to do it without ever changing jobs. But the key is you got to keep learning. So one of the things I did about 15 or 16 years ago was I set a goal to read 30 books that year, because I'd ordered a bunch of books. As a professor, I'm like an addict, and Amazon is like my best friend. So I thought I'm going to read 30 books because I had this shelf full of books that I never read, and I did it. And I learned a ton. And what I've done over the last 15 years is probably average 20 to 30 books a year, and about all sorts of different things. So, on my way home from Minneapolis on Sunday, I read Daniel Yergin's new book, The New Map, which is all about energy driving the world in the 21st century. And then I read David Baldacci's book, one of his novels. So, I read, and then I'm also reading a book right now about the future of money and what is digital currency going to be. So, I read promiscuously. I don't draw lines about what I'll read and what I won't read, but I read a lot, and that gives you a different perspective on the world. And so I think my superpower would be, I know how to learn, and I love it. And I love to learn new things and try new things.
As you think about that, I want you to reflect on things you've accomplished, but that have grown directly out of your love of learning, and share with us an example of something that you accomplished because of your love of learning.
So about a decade ago, I had a colleague at BYU who had a really unique set of data. And this was data on every university licensed startup from 1980 to what was then 2010, but what then became 2015. And we started asking questions about how could we figure out which of these companies succeeded and which ones didn't. And I was very interested, because of my work on poverty, about the role of geography, about the role of local culture, and about the role of local institutions. So we started looking at how does geography impact survival of these companies. And so in 2020, probably 10 years or more after that first conversation, we published a piece in Nature Biotechnology, one of the leading science journals in the entire world, that documented what happens to these university licensed technology startups. And it was just a journey. I didn't know much about the startup world. I didn't know a whole lot about economic geography, but was very interested in it. So I learned a lot about what makes a cluster, which is a sort of like Silicon Valley is a cluster, what makes them succeed, and then how these companies fit in. So, that was a really nice feather in my cap to publish in Nature but it all started because I was willing to learn about an area in a field I didn't know anything about.
Perfect example. Perfect example. Now, here's the challenging question. Paul, as you think about this love of learning that you've developed, as a professor, you've often, I'm sure, had to try to cajole, perhaps is the word, your students into developing at least some appetite for learning. What is the coaching you give? How do you encourage someone to develop this love of learning? Or, maybe they're not going to get to your level of love of learning, but how can they get to a higher level of interest in learning?
Well, I think there are two things that I do. Number one is I have a passion for learning, and so I communicate that. And I hope that's infectious. But even more, and this is a bit painful, but if you're going to learn, the first thing you have to do is admit you don't know something. You have to get over that hurdle. So one of the things that when I used to teach ethics, and teaching ethics at a religiously based institution is really, really tough, because everybody thinks, hey, I'm religious, I'm faithful, I don't need ethics. So the first day, the first challenge was a case to say, hey, maybe I don't know everything about ethics. Maybe there's actually something this guy can teach me. And if you can get people to that position, to sort of question and admit there are things that they don't know, but that they'd like to know, well, then you've opened the path for learning, because then you can figure out how to get there. And then, the one final thing, and I know this is going to be on the web, but if you really want to do deep learning, the internet is not your friend. The internet can give you the first sort of quarter inch of knowledge, but you've got to read books, you have to talk to people, you have to really be willing to engage with experts if you want to truly learn. So that's the sort of three-part thing: passion, figure out what you don't know, and then be willing to go deep. And if you can do those three things, you can learn.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Great insights. Great insights. Well, Paul, it's been a joy to catch up with you. I'm grateful that you would take the time. Congratulations again on publishing Clean. If you would just take a minute now and share with us how people can get a copy of the book, how they can connect with you, follow you perhaps on social media. If they want to reach out, please tell them the best way to connect with you, et cetera. But take a minute and make sure that people know how to follow up.
Okay. This is completely antithetical to my comments about the internet. Amazon is the best way to get a hold of the book. There are copies of the book in brick and mortar stores, but if you don't have a big Barnes & Noble by you, Amazon.com, Clean, Lessons from Ecolab, it'll come right up. Secondly, how people can get a hold of me. LinkedIn is probably the best way. My LinkedIn profile, just type in Paul C. Godfrey and you'll find me. I also have an author page on Amazon, so you can sort of learn a little bit more about me there. And then you can also, if you get really desperate, you can look at the Brigham Young University Marriott School of Business website, and you can get my contact information from there. But thanks for that opportunity to give a shout out, and a shout out to you for all the good work that you've done for me and blessing my life over the years.
Well, thank you, Paul. You're very kind. You're very kind. It's a thrill to reconnect. And Paul, we wish you every success with this book. I understand that it's already been a category leader in several categories. So kudos and congratulations. And we certainly hope this book continues to thrive and has the influence and impact you hope it has.
Thanks, Devin. I really appreciate that.
All righty. Let's do some good.
Thank you for tuning in to the Superpowers for Good show. Twice each week, we host changemakers who share their impact, insights, and superpowers. Don't miss another episode. Subscribe today at superpowersforgood.com. That's superpowers, good.com. Be super empowered. Get your copy of the book, Superpowers for Good, as an ebook, audiobook, paperback, or hardcover edition via your favorite online retailer. Interested in having me speak to your company, organization, or association? Visit devinthorpe.com. Then let's talk. Now, keep using your superpowers for good. Together, we can reverse climate change, improve global health, and eradicate poverty.